Welcome to the January 2023 Maine Accelerates Growth meeting. I'm happy to see you all here today. We have a great crowd. And it was good to see some of you this morning at the Maine Biz 5 on the Future conference. I feel like I've already done a lot today, actually, from going to that. It's one of the first big events back where there's like 500 people in a room at 8 a.m. It's really great. So good to see you there. So welcome. Maine Accelerates Growth is a statewide network of organizations and individuals that support entrepreneurs and innovators to scale in Maine and beyond. We believe that a vibrant, inclusive, innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem will result in a more abundant, equitable, and sustainable economy and make Maine a great place to live, work, and play. So we meet together to share expertise, seek best practices, and address system gaps. And we promote the successes of Maine startups and entrepreneurial support organizations, and we collaborate to attract talent and inspire innovation. So today we're going to have updates from the Maine Technology Institute and Maine Department of Economic and Community Development. We're also going to have a startup presentation that's kind of a special one because we're not only going to get a short pitch from GoodGames, but we're actually going to get to try a game, which is fun. And we also have a presentation that we're calling Scale from Maine, which is an initiative that came out of our 2021 work groups and has developed significantly as a way to get the ecosystem working together to accomplish a bunch of goals that we all have together. We also have Heather Douglas from the Harold Alfond Center for the Advancement of Maine's Workforce. I'd like to give a moment right now for anyone who this is their first time here or it's your first time back in a year. Would you give a 30-second intro? And I'm not sure that I can see everybody, so it's okay to jump in. Is anybody feeling really new and want to introduce themselves?
I can go ahead and jump in.
Great.
Bill Giordano here, UMaine doctoral student, and also working on co-founding a new nonprofit in Blue Hill called Tilth Arts and Agriculture. And I was last at MxG meeting a year ago, today presenting on my work with Engine in Biddeford on an arts accelerator. So good to see you all again, and I'm really excited about what you all have been working on last year.
Great, thank you. Anybody else feeling new that wants to jump in and introduce themselves?
My name is Rachel. I am the CEI WBC Women's Business Center program developer. This is my first meeting. I was invited by Jen Sprzinski, my colleague at CEI, and I'm excited to be here and learn more about what's going on in the ecosystem. I create workshops that include informative one-off programs in addition to interactive cohorts for female entrepreneurs to help them start and grow their business. I'm excited to network and collaborate with all of you.
Great. And anybody who wants to, send her your contact information for a coffee date or a chat, please do in the chat. I've also posted the live notes in the chat. Actually, I did not. I will post the live notes in the chat in just a second. And anyone's welcome to add announcements at the end of the live chat. Of the live notes, and also, correct how we spelled your name or things like that. Anything that you want to correct, you can do that. Anybody else that's feeling new today? How about Carrie Tyson?
Yeah, good morning. I'm Carrie Tyson. I'm the executive director here at Portland Downtown. We're an organization that works to stimulate a thriving, vibrant, and sustainable downtown community. So we try to work with our local economic culture and entrepreneurs and the like. There is plenty of space available here in downtown Portland. So if you're looking to relocate, please do let me know.
Awesome. Anybody else want to introduce themselves?
Liz, I'll jump in quick.
Thank you.
I'm not new to the group, but I haven't been in a while, and I have a new role. I'm now the executive director of the Maine Discovery Museum. As I said in our breakout groups, I rarely get to do our own, we do our own innovation, but I'm here to lurk and learn and to make sure that we know as an organization, all of the people who are doing really cool science, engineering, technology, math, and innovation that we can then somehow incorporate into our programming. Most publicly our Maine Science Festival program, which is the largest one, but I have grand plans on building out our programs pretty extensively over the next couple of years, so I will be lurking a lot.
Great. Welcome to you. Those of you who just got here, we'll be posting the live notes in the chat, and feel free to add announcements. Also, if we have any time at the end, we'll have time for announcements as well. Okay, so let's start out with MTI, our sponsor. MTI sponsors Maine Accelerates Growth. I'm an MTI contractor, and we have Brian Whitney here today. Brian, what's new?
Thanks, Liz. Good to see everybody. Nice turnout this morning. Always great to see 33 folks from the ecosystem get together and collaborate. So it's wonderful. Just in terms of MTI, there's a few MTI teammates here on the Zoom. I see Tom Kittredge, Joe Miliaccio, Abby Osi. So it's good to see all of them participating today. In terms of updates, wanted to let you know MTI released its annual report in December, and you can find that on our website, which is just mainetechnology.org under MTI Impact on the homepage, and you can find the FY22 report there. I think it tells a really good story about all of the things that MTI and many of you were involved in over the past year. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. And additionally, you may have seen last week, I think it was the 11th, there was an announcement about the Prime Ecosystem Awards that everybody had been anxiously awaiting news about. Last week, the announcement went out that we had made 16 awards. And as you probably remember, the Prime Ecosystem Awards were to entrepreneurial service organizations, so folks that are helping provide a catalyst for startup companies as they scale and grow in the state. We ended up receiving about 44 applications, seeking more than 18 million. We had 5 million to deploy. So again, we ended up making 16 awards, I'm sorry. And really pleased, a number of the folks on this call were recipients, including organizations like Coastal Enterprises, Upstart Maine, UMaine. For a whole list, let's see, it's Coastal Enterprises, Entrepreneurship for All, the Good Shepherd Food Bank, the Greater Portland Immigrant Welcome Center, the Gulf of Maine Research Institute, the Island Institute, Main Street Skowhegan, the Maine Center for Entrepreneurs, Maine Outdoor Brands, Midcoast Regional Redevelopment Authority, the Rue Institute, the Fork Food Lab, Prosperity Maine, UMaine, Upstart Maine, and the Wild Blueberry Commission of Maine. So those were the 16 awards. Really excited to see the results of the good work that they're all going to do over the next year plus. In terms of updates, so MTI had about 70 or 80 million to deploy in Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan dollars. We now have 10 million left. So that funding will go out probably Q1 of 2023, and those will go out as Prime awards directly to businesses, probably in a couple of phases, one being for small new startups that really haven't benefited much from other jobs and recovery plan funding. So that'll be a grant program for those smaller businesses. And then we're envisioning another phase that'll probably be loans to more high growth, scalable small businesses. So that's the MTI update in a nutshell. Happy to take any questions if anybody has them.
Any questions for Brian?
I have a question. You might not know, Brian, but I'm assuming those grants, there'll be a new application process. It's not that you're going to take those that already applied to Prime. So a whole new, yeah.
That's correct, Jen. Yeah,
Yeah.
there'll be different kind of guidelines. The process will be similar, but there'll be different
Criteria.
guidelines and
Yeah.
different applications. So yeah, we'll need people to reapply for
Yeah.
that fund.
And do you have a sense of timing or not yet?
Yeah, so we're still fleshing the program parameters out, but probably maybe February application for the first phase of the small business grant program, and then probably early Q2 for the scalable loan program.
Great. Any other questions for Brian? Okay, let's move along. So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
It was an informal question. Go ahead, Liz. That's fine. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you. So next we have Jake Daniele from the Department of Economic and Community Development. Hi, Jake. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Just a few items to highlight and put on your radar. I'll try to add some links in the chat afterwards. The Maine Space Conference and Trade Show is in its early planning stages. I think this will be a cool conference you guys will want to see. So it'll be at the Holiday Inn in Portland, and it's scheduled to be on November 5th through November 7th. They'll do topics to include the space industry supply chain, space data analytics, launch services, government procurement, site locations, so a lot of interesting topics there. NBRC, the Northern Border Regional Commission's 2023 Forest Economy Program has been announced. And I'll have a link for this, but info sessions are coming up and letters of interest are due March 10th. So that's $7 million in funding with awards capped at $1 million. And this isn't really DECD, but your networks might be interested in a couple of pitch competitions that applications are coming up. So Greenlight Maine applications are due Tuesday, January 31st, and the big gig is due, it actually got extended to Sunday, January 22nd. So a couple things to report out, and that's all I've got for you today.
Great. Jake, I would love it if you would put those links into the notes because I didn't catch all of that stuff. Any question for Jake or DECD generally? Okay, so with that, I'm going to welcome Mark Booker from GoodGames. I think they're in MTI's portfolio, right? The head's nodding.
Yeah, we sure are. Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
And so we've created, normally we do a 5-minute presentation, 5-minute Q&A, but they said if we gave them a little extra time that they could actually run a game with us, and we'd understand that they do a lot more. And someone else, one of my other speakers, dropped out, so here we are.
Oh, works out perfectly.
So we're great. So Mark, welcome. Tell us about you, show us your game, and then also make sure you ask us at the end. You know, you've got a great group here, 37 people from around the state and the ecosystem. So you get to ask us for what you want, you know, what you're looking for. And that's one of the greatest pleasures, is to actually be able to give you
amazing
what you're looking for. Okay.
Well,
so work us.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so grateful to you for allowing us time and extra time, because we do just need a little bit. It is still going to feel a little rushed because we're going to go through like the whole process of playing a game. But before I get started, I do want to thank MTI for their support. We have been supported by them and are so lucky to have them as a support system, because we wouldn't be here without their support. So thank you so much to MTI and everything for believing in good games. I'm going to share my screen here. And it's going to feel for a moment like I shared my screen because it's my picture, and I promise that's not why. I was just saying here, I'm Mark Booker. Very nice to meet you all. Thank you so much for allowing me to present. I'll give you a little bit of background. We're going to play one game, one of our more popular games called Rant, and then we're going to jump into a little Q&A at the very end. And I will tell you that this is just to raise awareness about good games. We believe we have tools that can revolutionize the workforce and how they communicate. And I'm going to show you a little example of why we think that. And so remote hybrid work has pioneered, in my opinion, a very welcome evolution of the modern workforce. I mean, here we all are in Zoom right now. And that's why we've developed numerous game tools. And I'll give you kind of an example of what, who and what we are here. Our tools can be used to build a new experience. They can be used to gamify existing experiences. But what we really do is we create web-based tools that bring gamified elements to meetings, to events, to presentations. It's really almost any place in the workforce. We really are a versatile tool. And they create highly interactive, engaging sessions unlike any other tool or methodology available, and can actually be used virtually in this setting or in person. And every single session, whether it's 5 participants or 500, gets lasting results that stay with participants for a longer period of time than typical meetings, events, and presentations. And they can be revisited anytime to check progress and to revitalize focus and goals. And we've essentially gamified the feedback experience at every business and organizational need. And like I said, they're web-based and mobile-ready, so they can be played on any device. They're also flexible because each session can yield different results based on whatever topic or need is there. And I'm going to be, so that's kind of an overall for what we do. And then you've probably heard gamification before. I'm going to briefly talk about what kind of gamification we're talking about here, because that's been a buzzword, I think, in the corporate and business world for a little while here. So what kind of gamification are we talking about? This is not reward gamification where you get a gift card for doing your job. We went to an HR conference this year and was just flabbergasted at that use of the word gamification, that you get a $25 Amazon gift card for basically doing your job. No, this is the introduction of game elements like points, competition, a ticking clock, elements like that increase focus, drive, motivation, but they also do some things scientifically. They trigger the brain's release of dopamine, serotonin, and other endorphins. But I can't stress enough how gamification affects the brain's ability to retain information. You know, if you get up and speak for people, or you lead a meeting, or whatever it is for an hour, there's all kinds of studies about the lack of effectiveness in that methodology and retaining information. But if you get up and allow people to actively participate in your meeting, in your event, in your presentation, it always guarantees better results. That's a very quick, very brief overview kind of what we do. But now I would love it if we could play a game. And so we're going to play one of our more popular games called Rant. I just put a link into the chat. So in order to play this game, all you have to do is click that link in the chat, and you should come to a screen that looks like this. So find yourself there. I'll give just everybody just one moment. It doesn't take long. Just go ahead and find yourself there. And then we will continue here forward. So today we are going to be playing a game, like I said, called Rant. And what we're going to do is when I press go, when I say go, we are going to have 90 seconds to answer the question you see on your screen right now. And we're going to do a really easy one. Normally, I ask people when they're going to play a game to focus in very tightly on what they're going to discuss. This is a really broad question because everybody works in sort of different sectors. However, everybody has leadership. So we're going to discuss leadership today, and we're going to discuss what kind of qualities make for good leadership. When I press go, we are going to have 90 seconds to answer this question. You can answer it as many times as you can in 90 seconds. You're going to see a text field. Simply put your cursor in there, type in an answer, hit enter, and you're going to see everybody's answers below. So if you're unsure how to answer this question, or you don't quite know what to write, look at other people's answers. It's called a feedback loop. Someone in there may spark something in you to answer the question. So 90 seconds, we answer this question, enter your answer, hit enter, enter another one, hit enter as many times as you want. And we are going to be revisiting these pieces of feedback. So I encourage you to not write in one-word answers. We always encourage people to write in 3 words up to a full sentence. So just a complete thought, hit enter and go, and then we'll move on. There shouldn't be any questions. It's pretty straightforward, but if you do have questions, please feel free to shout them out at me. And we are going to begin in 3, 2, 1, go. What qualities make for good leadership? Empathy, compassion, great. You guys are already putting it in. Very nice work. Very, very good. We got a lot coming in here. Listens, mindfulness. Yes, that one's always comes to mind too. Lived experience. I'm going to add a couple in here. Great work, everybody. My goodness, so much. Lead by example. Mental health is such an important thing to a modern workforce. Yep, good mentor. Being vulnerable, that's one that goes overlooked, I think. We have about 45 seconds, so please feel free to answer this question as much as you would like to. If you feel good about it, you can kind of sit and relax for 30 seconds. But please enter in as much as you feel like you want to be visible to this group about the good qualities of leadership. Less than 30 seconds to go. Very nice work. Let's see, we have about 36 participants, and we have almost tripled that with different pieces of feedback here. So that's almost 3 per person. That's incredible, guys. Wonderful work here. About 10 seconds left. So get those answers in. If you have any final details you want to include, go ahead and hit enter. Finish that up. You have 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. Okay, very nice job, everybody. And you might be wondering why the ticking clock. Well, what's wonderful about the ticking clock is there's something in humans that once there's a ticking clock, all distractions go away and it focuses people in on a specific goal and task. And you guys did a fantastic job. Very nice work. Wonderful job. I'm going to advance us now, and I am going to share my screen to help explain this next portion of it. So now you should be seeing a screen just like this. And here we have all the pieces of feedback that we just put into that first round. And if you click more, please, you can actually cycle through. And everybody's got a different list here. It is randomly generated as far as what you see. And what we're going to do is we are now going to expand on the ideas presented. So what happens when I find one that resonates with me that I think that I can add a little extra detail or a little more to that can really start to expand the piece of feedback? When I click it, it puts it up in the text field right here. Ability to listen, and I could do something like, I could change one word, ability to understand, right? Here I've added just a little bit that adds a little bit more to the listening portion of this. However, let's do shares ownership. I can delete the whole thing and says, and the ability get their hands dirty. Here I've added a little bit more that just makes it a little more discerning, a little extra detail. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys about 60 seconds, go through and find some that you feel like you can offer a little bit more to. Click on it, add a little bit more, hit enter, and it'll appear just under that original piece of feedback. So go ahead and add some new ideas, some new thoughts, some different things to these to just make them a little bit more robust. Again, I'm just going to give you about 60 seconds because we don't have a lot of time here, but take 60 seconds, go through, expand on the ideas where you can, and then we're going to revisit some of these pieces of feedback, even the expanded ideas. So take another 60 seconds and go ahead and offer some suggestions there. Oh, great. We got some people already doing it on the back end. I can see everything as a facilitator. So these are really great facilitation tools as well. Yeah, this is really wonderful, guys. Wonderful, wonderful work here. Yeah. Very nice. About 30 more seconds, everybody, and then we'll move forward to the next one. So I know there's a lot of feedback in here, and normally we offer more time, but we're a little expedited today, so. Great work, everybody. About 15 more seconds to offer those modifications, as we call them. So just take another 15 seconds and finish up the ideas that you're working on right now. Really great. Okay, I'm going to advance. So finish up what you're working on right now. We have a little more than 1 per person, which is really fantastic. So let's just keep moving forward here. I'm going to move forward. So please finish up your idea in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very nice, everybody. Very, very nice. Now we move on to the third round, and this is just voting. And what it would say here is if it resonates with you, the pieces of feedback, if they resonate with you collectively, vote up. If they resonate with you positively, if they resonate with you negatively, vote down. If you're indifferent to it, skip. Now, I will say, voting something down is not a rejection of your colleagues' ideas. It is just about visibility. If it resonates with you negatively, as some pieces of feedback may, vote it down. If it resonates with you positively, vote it up, or skip it if you're indifferent to it. Please kind of use your votes discerningly. So just if it really resonates with you, vote. If it doesn't, vote down. And we're going to see what the most popular ideas about leadership qualities are presented in this particular session among this particular group. Great work. Oh, we have some really good ideas coming in here. You may notice that you don't see your own modifications in here, and that is by design. We have designed it so that you don't see your own, so that you can vote on other people's ideas instead of your own. So let's take another 30 seconds and do some more voting. Yep. Great work, everybody. Lots of votes coming in here. Very nice show. We got some very clear ideas coming in here. Let's take another 15 seconds to vote, and then I'm going to advance. So very nice work. Very, very good. All right, about 10 seconds, and then we're going to move forward. All right, let's take 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great work, everybody. We're going to advance here. Now I'm going to create just a little slideshow on the end, and we're going to discuss some of the most popular ideas here. We had a few that were by far the most popular ones. So let's take a look here. Very nice work. Okay, so this was the most popular piece of feedback and its modification presented in our session today. It started out as ability to listen, and it was added with ability to listen and encouraging a listening culture. And I'm just going to say, why do we think this is the most idea? So on the right-hand side, we can actually now chat about these. We can actually continue the conversation about these particular pieces of feedback. And I just posed a question to everybody on the right-hand side. You'll also notice that you're playing anonymously. This entire game was played anonymously, and that is to encourage candid feedback and honest answers. You can now identify yourself. This is actually the only place in the game where you can identify yourself. If you look up in the left-hand corner, if you'd like to identify yourself, you sure can. Otherwise, we can stay anonymous and have a conversation about these particular topics. So this was the #1 overall expressed idea. Let's take a moment and answer the question here. Why do we think this is the most popular idea? Why do you think something like encouraging a listening culture is a popular quality amongst leadership? Go ahead and answer that a few times here. Yeah, nothing is more frustrating as an employee than feeling like you're unheard, unseen, and not valued. And I tell you what, that's why this game exists. And that's why it's played anonymously. It's to amplify quiet voices, people who are too shy to answer, people who don't answer for fear of retribution and blowback or stigma. So very nice job. Let's move on. This was the #2 most popular idea expressed in this particular session. Started as allow people to make mistakes, and was added with allow people to make mistakes and celebrate those mistakes as learning opportunities. Very nice piece of feedback and a very good opportunity for learning within the company. Very nice job. I could see why these two are the most popular. Now I'm going to flip it on its head a little bit, because I did say that you could vote things down, and sometimes a negatively voted piece of feedback and its modification is as telling as a positive one. So let's take a look at the least popular piece of feedback expressed here. It started out as listens and willing to pivot, very good leadership quality, and was able to say, you know what, I was wrong about this. Oh my good, oh, I'm so sorry. I added one too many. Sorry, this is the least negative one. Data-based decision-making is what it started out as. Why would data-based decision-making be considered negative? Does anybody have any ideas behind that? I just posed another question in there. There you go. Yeah, that's a good point. It is not the only factor, and it does sometimes seem like the most important one. You're exactly right. That's great. That's really, really great. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so we're going to move on to the very final screen here. And this is just a summary of all the pieces of feedback that were expressed in this entire session, including the conversations we had on the right-hand side. If there were any, we did not, of course, discuss every piece of feedback here. We just highlighted a few of them. And this gives you a good idea of how we can use this to generate feedback, to rant about issues and find their solutions, especially in that second round. It is very solutions oriented when we're talking about issues, or brainstorming. This is also a great brainstorming idea, but we also say if you're going to use a whiteboard, ditch the whiteboard, use this because you have a lasting impression of all of the ideas expressed or presented. Or if you're trying to prioritize brainstorming and things of that nature, this is such a great way to express everyone's ideas, get them down, and vote on them, giving them priority. So that's my very brief, very quick version of our games. Happy to take the next, I think we have, what, 2 minutes? I'm so sorry, a couple of minutes to answer questions, but happy to answer any questions that come about here.
Yeah, great. I think everybody will want to know, where are you at in your current business development phase, and what are the resources that you most need right now?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yes. So we are a subscription-based software. We do have one-off event and things like that, but we are subscription-based, and we are just trying to raise awareness, getting into companies and just getting people to use the games. That's really sort of what we want the most. But what we also do really well with our games is we lead a lot of different kinds of workshops, and we also introduce game elements to curriculum, workshops, things like that. So if you have a presentation, some kind of facilitation that you do, some workshop, some curriculum, anything of that nature, we can actually use our tools to inject moments of interactivity and engagement in anything. So being able to do that for you right now, if you find a need for this kind of gamification in your work, your meetings, your events, your presentations, really, we are just looking for people to partner with in those situations. So if anybody sees the value in these, I'd love to have a longer conversation about how we can collaborate together.
Okay, great. Please put your information in the chat, and also, what has been most helpful to you in Maine's ecosystem so far? What organizations or resources have been most helpful so far?
Well, I did mention MTI. That has been fantastic for us, but we also have a bunch of collaborators in Maine, including some education folks and some people that work in the hospital and healthcare industry. And Maine has been so open and welcoming to new processes and new ways of doing things like this. It has been an incredible thing to sort of use these tools in Maine, specifically too, as we work on really high value concepts like racism, like climate change and things of that nature. Our games have been really, really good for introducing conversations here, and the local Maine level has been fantastic for embracing these kind of tools.
Awesome. Thank you. So any other questions people have for Mark, please put it in the chat, and also Mark, any other resources you can think of that you want, ask for them in the chat. And then, Mark, please send me your slides. And when I send out the notes, I'll send out your slides to everybody as well. We have a mailing list of about 200 going now. Okay,
wonderful.
Great.
Yep. Thank you.
So we're going on to Patrick. So Patrick is new-ish to Maine, and he worked for almost 6 years with MIT's Solve competition program. And he's been helping us think about how to implement one of the proposals that came out of the work groups in 2021, which is to have something along the lines of a grand challenge for Maine, where we're working together as an ecosystem to use entrepreneurship as a tool to solve big problems in Maine. And also with the goals of, getting us working together as an ecosystem, engaging a broader population in Maine to be thinking about collaborative and innovative problem solving, and educating a broader population in Maine about entrepreneurship resources in Maine, and then also putting us on the map globally and nationally as a place where problems can be solved, and to use Maine as a rural test bed. So we've put together a little slideshow to show what we're thinking about, and then we're going to give you a survey asking what you think about it, and we'll have a Q&A as well. So go ahead, Patrick.
Hey, Liz, Patrick.
Yeah.
This is Joe. Can I just say one thing in my observation? I really want to thank Patrick and the other volunteers who are paying it forward to put in their time to help the self-selected MxG strategy group get through some of this. So thank you, Patrick, and others. It really the pro bono and leaning in, the give before you get mentality is totally MxG. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Joe.
you, Patrick, for bringing your talents. It's been awesome. So go ahead.
All right. Thanks for that, Joe. Nice to see everybody. See my screen all right, I'm assuming. So, hey everyone, I'm Patrick Diamond. I'm here in Portland where I grew up and recently returned, as a lot of people have, to Maine. So happy to be here. I run a company called Laurel Studio. It's a Maine-based company that designs innovation strategies for leaders at the forefront of social change. What that means is Laurel Studio is basically the culmination of my personal and professional experience as a founding member of an innovation program at MIT called Solve. There I designed and implemented innovation strategies for a whole suite of global organizations. But I'm not really going to talk about any of that today. We can talk about my business if you want to afterwards, but what I'm here to talk about today is about scale, and it's about Maine. So it's really about this concept, scalable solutions for rural markets. And what I mean by that is I believe, and I think a lot of you probably believe too, that Maine has the potential and in some ways is the ultimate rural market. And what I mean by that is Maine is so exceptional in so many ways, and our rural character sets us apart from the rest in particular. We are the most rural state in the US. We're also among the least populated and least dense communities in the US as well, and in some ways beyond, regionally and globally too. I want to get everybody here to really think about rural as an opportunity to differentiate Maine from the rest, as well as an opportunity for technology to reequate rural with prosperity, health, and boundless potential. Rural communities used to embody all of these things, but the narrative has shifted in recent years towards deficits, the problems with rural communities. I think everybody here probably agrees that there's great opportunities and great promise in rural Maine and rural US. So why am I telling you what you already know, and who the hell is this guy telling you about rural Maine? Everybody lives here. I want to tell you a little bit about this initiative that has spun out of MxG and this group. We're calling it Scale for Maine. At least now, and Scale for Maine is developing solutions for rural markets specifically as a market segment that we want to focus on. And I want to tell you a little bit about how this works. Scale for Maine is going to target early stage innovations. Those are innovations, entities, ventures, organizations, doesn't really matter. Those with a tested prototype or service model and a well-developed business plan. So they have some track record. And those innovations may already be here in Maine, as we just heard, from a business that's here in Maine. But there's also plenty of businesses and ventures from outside of Maine that might benefit from our home too. Scale for Maine uses crowdsourcing as a tool of innovation to identify innovations with potential to serve rural markets. They may be already working with rural markets, or they may be have potential to do so. And then once identified through a crowdsourcing tool, Scale for Maine will equip those innovations for rural markets. And I should say, we aim to equip those innovations not through a new program or something new and flashy or owned by one organization, but by leveraging our exceptionally friendly and collaborative innovation ecosystem, such as by the people who are here right now. So Scale for Maine is essentially a competition to identify and equip solutions for rural scale up. And another distinguishing feature is that we want it to be deeply open. I and collaborative. We aim to make the data for this challenge freely available for use by Maine's innovation ecosystem. We want this collaboration to be an opportunity to better coordinate Maine's outsized innovation resources around the real needs of innovators. We want this program to be centered on the needs and realities of innovators. This is also a concept that I've, speaking of active listening and leadership through listening, I've been listening a lot and trying to learn about what my fellow Mainers think about this world. And one thing that I've really landed on personally is this idea of Maine being a friendly innovation ecosystem. As I've discussed this with leaders from across the state, a lot of things have stood out. Nod your head if you agree with these things. Mainers answer the phone. They immediately make connections to others. They listen, they invite, they care. These are characteristics of Mainers, but also of a community of friends, not to be too cutesy about it, but Maine, Scale for Maine, I think, wants to lean into that idea of growing the circle of friends here in Maine. And that means welcoming newcomers to the state. It can be controversial depending on who you talk to include those who have been historically excluded from prosperity for a variety of reasons. And that cuts in a variety of ways across identity groups, where people live, access to different opportunities, so on. And we want to grow that circle to distinguish Maine from others as a community of people who have each other's backs and who have the backs of innovators. That's not the case in a lot of places that support innovation. A lot of places are super competitive. So now I want to dig in a little bit and tell you like how we think this will work. And many of you are familiar with the concept of an MVP, a minimum viable product, but we're going to adopt that as we go forward with this program. So to make Scale for Maine a reality, we're going to build an MVP, and we expect to learn, to test, and to iterate. These are things that we expect innovators to do. So we're going to do it ourselves as innovators. It's an important thing. Here's a little roadmap because people like visuals, but with guidance from, I hope, this group here and whoever you want to connect us with, we're going to build an MVP in the form of a website to introduce leaders to this initiative. By February, we'll gather feedback and then rapidly iterate after that we get that feedback. And then we'll start to onboard new partners, hopefully many of you, who represent Maine's friendly innovation ecosystem. We'll do things like recruit advisors, judges, ambassadors, and others who want to engage in the program or offer their support to entrepreneurs and innovators. And then we aim to launch a competition by late March. And that competition will, simply put, invite innovators near and far to pitch their solutions for rural markets, whether they're potential or in practice right now. So again, we'll have a website. That'll be the first piece. There's a little preview here on the screen. We'll have an open platform to crowdsource innovations and then freely share those resources with others. So everyone will be able to see who is applying. It won't be gated or owned by one organization. We'll create, to start, a resource tool. We're calling it a resource marketplace to help innovators navigate Maine's innovation resources. It can be a challenge for people to figure out who's who and how to connect with whom. And then we want to do some storytelling. We want to create profiles of kind of a curated set of stories from across Maine that basically demonstrate the opportunity of rural markets in Maine. So we want to profile different businesses, different communities, different towns, and so on. And then we'll be building an inaugural prize fund to make grants, prize grants to incentivize and reward innovators for their work and participation in the program. So got an ask for you because it's not a pitch without an ask, but it's kind of a simple one. And it's really a couple asks. I hope that when you hear this little pitch, it'll prompt some ideas. Want you to share them, especially if they're critical. What do we have right? What do we not have right? Want to hear from you. We don't really want to replicate existing resources. There's such a great group of organizations doing all this stuff right now. So this hopefully is not positioned as a competitor, but more of an enabling platform for all the work that you're doing here. So that involves, we'd like to make use of all the great assets, media, reports, and stories that your organizations already have developed. And that'll help us kind of shape this narrative around rural as an opportunity. You'll have an opportunity to share that, contribute to that resource marketplace to help advertise specific programs for innovators here in Maine. And then I'll share in the link a sign-up chat for you to access this deck if you want it to share with other people, but also to stay up to date on the MVP. That's really what I had today, but I think we have a little bit of time afterwards for Q&A, or I know, Liz, you had a poll or something like that too, so I'm happy to turn it back over to you. And
yeah, you're doing it. That was great. Thank you so much, Patrick. I see one hand raised, and okay, Susan, and I'm going to put a poll in that asks you to give you feedback on how this proposal fits the goals that you see, and to give any other feedback. So I'm going to send that out right now. Go ahead, Susan.
Hi, thanks. Hi, Patrick. So I may be a little thick in the head because I was at 5 on the future this morning, and it was intense, but I'm going to ask some really basic questions. And I'm just going to list a few things off, Patrick, and then you can address them. So it's scale from Maine. And I kind of wonder, is it also scale for Maine? So I guess one thing I'm a little confused on is this a invitation to the world that if you innovate for rural economies, then come on in, we want your ideas? Or is this truly Maine sourced? So that's sort of one piece of it. And then I have to say that when I think of, and by the way, I'm all in favor of all of this. I'm just trying to narrow down the scope as I think about this. So the challenges of rural communities, digital health, housing, daycare, broadband, education, all these things. It's just so broad for me right now. And when I think of who is working on what issues and solving big problems, I think I just need some help in better understanding. You get it. I'm going to stop right there. You get where I'm going. Thanks.
yeah, thanks for that, Susan. Thanks for connecting me with a number of people just in your own work. So this is a concept, right? So like this feedback is going to help us inform the further development of it. The idea of the preposition from is a response to just the reality of being an entrepreneur in a small state, in a rural state like Maine. It's hard. It's especially hard to be an entrepreneur and an innovator anywhere. It's even harder to do it in a place like Maine, to be honest. And Scale from Maine is an attempt to meet entrepreneurs where they are. We want to meet entrepreneurs who want to come to a place like Maine because it is rural, because it has the characteristics of a rural market. We want to try to entice them to be here in Maine, to learn how to scale from Maine based on the characteristics of a rural market here. Since we know that Maine is very much like other places that are rural or less populated or things like that. So the idea of from is if we can get startups or get entrepreneurs to develop solutions that work here in Maine, they are equipped to then go on to scale to other rural markets in a way that they wouldn't be able to if they went to San Francisco or Boston or New York or other places. And
Patrick,
then, yeah.
You just right there. I mean, there's a big light bulb just went off for me. This is why I'm sorry we're being recorded, because I'm being vulnerable. And I hate being recorded when I'm vulnerable. I think I just clued in that this is really supporting entrepreneurship in rural communities of Maine, as opposed to the focus being how do we solve issues through innovation for rural communities, which isn't to say there isn't an overlap. So actually, I want to ask you, how does this fit in with Live and Work Maine? And maybe Liz, you can speak to this. But I just suddenly, I had a light bulb go off. So am I now on better track of what you're trying to do? Thank you.
I think so. I think one of the things that I would say very quickly is this program, if it indeed happens, is going to be a lot of things to a lot of different organizations, and that's okay. This is a platform that hopefully people can use to coordinate resources and accomplish different goals. But Liz?
Yeah, just that we were like, okay, we know we're trying to accomplish a lot of things with this, and maybe we can't accomplish all equally right away. But, we don't want to negate a possible awesome solution from another place, but we do want it to be implementable here. So we've talked about like maybe a team can be from another country, but they have to say how they're going to apply it in Maine. So they have to do some research, or they maybe have to have a team member who's located in Maine, something like that. So we're still working on that kind of stuff. And Katie has been at the table every single time. So Katie from Live and Work in Maine. So she's absolutely at the table. And we probably have, 30 different people who have been participating in developing this concept. So it's not just me and Patrick in a room by ourselves, for sure. The poll is open for, I think, like 1 or 2 more minutes. 4 more minutes. So please, only half of you have replied to it. So do that. We have time for one more question. And also, because I can't see, because the poll is anonymous, if this is something you're excited to help with, please send a note in the chat about that, so I know that. Any other questions for Patrick or about this concept?
Liz, it's Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say, I think for me, I continue to be interested in this because for everyone here, I think there's the thing we've discussed in the past, which is what's the future of the Maine Accelerates Growth. And some of my thought was maybe reestablish, a steering committee of the pillar organizations and supporters that could be accountable for, a work plan for 2023-4. So just the thought, everyone should put some thought to that, especially the founding charter members of this group, University of Maine, Maine Center for Entrepreneurial Development, and MTI. So, and since then, great supporters like Coastal and all the others. So, for me, this is an idea that I think folks should give feedback on as to whether when the MTI's support contract for MxG ends this fiscal year, there's an ask for something like MxG to continue, and that's my thought.
Yep.
Maybe it's the vehicle through which we collaborate, but we should probably establish a steering committee or something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something I'm going to be reaching out to folks soon. And it may be that this Scale for Maine thing is more of an independent collaboration. Okay, great. So please answer the survey if you haven't done that yet. And we're going to move on to Heather Douglas. Heather, I'm going to give you like a 60-second bell.
Okay.
Okay. And so
Sure.
thank you for joining us today. It's great to have you here, and I hope you'll continue to join us in the future.
Absolutely. And thank you for the invite. And I see a lot of familiar names on this call. So I want to thank you all for the work that you're doing to grow business across the state. I oversee communications at the Harold Alfond Center for the Advancement of Maine's Workforce. We sit under the Maine Community College System and oversee short-term training. There's 3 stages really that we focus on. We have funding from the Harold Alfond Foundation, Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan, as well as Maine Quality Centers. So 3 areas primary that we focus on is pre-hire training. We have 120 short-term programs set up through our community colleges, focusing on industries most impacted by COVID. So that's one set. We do have scholarships available for individuals who want to pick away at a 2-year degree on their own. So that's another section. What I really want to talk to this group about is our Maine Workforce Development Compact. And what that is grant funding available to any employer in the state. So if you're an entrepreneur or solopreneur, you qualify for this funding. For this year, 24 and 25, it's a $1,200 match per employee. It can be training that is through the Maine Community College system. It can be training that you go to a conference to receive, or it can be through a third-party training vendor. I see some other educational organizations on this call, and I believe they are all partners as well. So in looking at that, it is grant funding. So we do have to collect some information. That's the caveat of this whole thing. It's a 2-minute application to fill out. You get a memorandum of agreement that lays out this is the information that we're collecting. We just need to know the individuals that are training and what they're training in, and that they've completed it. As far as qualifications, they have to be 18 or older. Employees have to be 18 or older, paid by your organization, be a Maine resident, and have a high school diploma or equivalent. So with that being said, does anybody have any questions?
I have a question right off. I'm thinking, could a nonprofit send somebody to a conference? And is it okay if the employee is a contractor as opposed to a W-2?
They do have to be a W-2 employee, but as a contractor, that person, so long as they have an EIN, could sign up on their own to be a compact member. It does cover conferences, only the conference admission, no travel. Thank you, Liz, for that question.
Great. Other questions for Heather?
Great. I will put the link in the chat for anybody to, as well as my email. And if there are any questions, feel free to reach out. But it is truly the funding for that particular, for the compact is through the Harold Alfond Foundation. And it is to grow Maine's workforce with the skills that we need. So
awesome. Thank you so much. Any other questions for Heather?
I have a quick question. Mrs. Rose. Is Heather still here? Oh, okay, yeah. I have a question. So on the application for Compact, I'm seeing that you can apply as like an association. Like I saw that Fort Food Lab recently got funding, I believe, for this program. So how does that work, being that those obviously wouldn't be W-2 employees of the nonprofit?
Correct. Where it is an association, their members can access it. So it would be Food Fork Lab that would be holding the training, and then as individuals come into that, Food Fork Lab would just give us the information that's required for the grant.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Other questions for Heather?
I have one again. It's Joe.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Heather, not now, but maybe Liz can get us together to discuss other educational opportunities, especially around entrepreneurship training for young teams. And we are still looking for some partners to team on a source of funds for those entrepreneurs and young startup teams, or old ones that don't have access to friends, family, and foolhardy stranger money as a source of matching funds to MTI grants. It's one of the big friction points that MTI and MxG discovered a couple years ago. So would love to talk more about that.
Absolutely. I'm going to put my email in the chat too, Joe. Please feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Heather.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather. So we're actually ahead of schedule, which is a miracle. And so I'm going to open the floor for a few minutes for announcements, introductions from new people. I want to make a pitch for the Startup Champions Conference, which is now going to be June 7th and 8th in Washington, D.C. It is a fantastic, fantastic conference for people who are doing ecosystem building. And I would like to get a contingent of 8 to 10 people from Maine to go. And I'm thinking maybe we can all use this this grant money to pay for our conference fees, which are not huge. I mean, they're like $200 in fees, so it's really more about getting there. And I think a lot of us maybe have friends or family in DC, so we can find a way to make it affordable. And so that's my pitch. Can I have hands raised for anybody who has an announcement to make or wants to introduce themselves that didn't get to do so before?
Hi, Liz.
Go ahead.
This
Hi,
is
Sarah.
Hi, Sarah Strickland. I'm in Robbinston, Washington County, and one of the co-coordinators of the Down East Innovation Network that's been around for a while.
Yeah, and if you want to put a link to that, I know your meetings are quite open. If you want to share anything there, that's great. Adam.
Hello, everyone. I'm Adam. I'm with the RU. I work with Anna. I'm the Start Summit coordinator here. And our announcement is we have the Lewiston Start Summit actually February 3rd at the Lewiston Public Library. We'll be hosting about 50 people, and it's a pitch competition. The theme of this one is social innovation.
Awesome. And I will keep saying it's not just for people who think they want to be entrepreneurs. Anybody in this room should go, or any family members. It's very exciting, fast-paced experience to explore taking risks and working with ideas and working in a team. There's really nothing like it. Sarah Smith.
Hey everyone, just wanted to introduce myself, new to Maine, living in Portland. I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for 5 years, landed there as a part of a startup program called Venture for America, and then worked in innovation. So hoping to take some of that knowledge I got down there in terms of ecosystem building and get plunked in here. Thanks all.
Awesome. Sarah, what are you doing for work right now, and what are you looking for?
Yeah, I'm currently actually at the cheese shop of Portland, which is super fun. So if you want cheese, come on in. But I'm on the job hunt currently, looking for different strategy, program management, ecosystem roles.
Awesome. Marty.
I'd like to promote Wednesday, March 15th. We'll be hosting our Clean Tech Open kickoff at Vero Law Firm in Portland. I think we have actually the team from Clean Tech Open out of Boston as a speaker next month, but we are looking for teams to come in and do a 1-minute pitch. We have 2 so far. We're looking for 5. Clean Tech Open is for those big ideas. If you have a concept where the physics work, but you need to raise $10 billion, we want to hear from you. We have had, for example, a proposal that involves the physics of molten boron and the energy storage capabilities thereof. The problem is there is literally no container for molten boron, but it works on paper. And so Clean Tech Open often takes, another successful proposal involved transparent insulation. So we're looking for those big concepts that we can bring via Clean Tech Open to a national investor and customer audience. So hope that you can come on March 15th, and we'll have plenty of good local beverages and orders at the same time. It should be a good networking event. It's a Wednesday evening. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And for Marty and anyone else, if you put the actual link to that in the live notes or even the chat, then we'll make sure that that gets out to everybody in a digestible, clickable form. Any other? Okay, Bobby, go ahead.
Just wanted to say that the link to the E2 Tech event and many other links, such as applying for Big Gig or Greenlight Maine, are all on the tiny URL ecosystem calendar that's in the notes. I can put it in the chat as well. I'm also getting some information from organizations in Boston, like Thai Boston, if you know of a, I think it's also in there. They are looking for Maine startups to help to join their accelerator. That's deadline's coming up this month as well. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Joe, I see you put something in the chat. Did you want to ask a question about that?
Well, it's just, again, I'm thinking about the work plan for the year, and I had suggested to some of the MxG strategy group that, one of the things that would be helpful is we couldn't complete, I think last year was one of the things MTI asked for was, could MxG do a state of the ecosystem report? And the reality is, right, you can't without the data. So that's a work in progress. So maybe this next cycle would any of the people that are members of MTI funded entrepreneur support organizations be interested in a summit where we could maybe bring in a speaker or two from another rural state for some best practice stuff. We've got some great ideas, but would it be helpful to have a couple of sessions for the accelerators, incubators, and the like that are running entrepreneur support organizations? And the target would be those that are in MTI's portfolio, like Rue, UMaine, a whole bunch of them. Would that be of interest to people for shared learning opportunity if it wasn't too burdensome and hybrid? No need to answer now. Just pass it on to Liz, because again, trying to put together a work plan for if and when MxG continues. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. We can connect about that offline, and anybody with thoughts on that should definitely reach out to me. Final call for questions. Okay, awesome. Great. Thank you so much. What we traditionally do is leave breakout rooms open. So totally optional if you want to stay and chat with anything or navigate your way to a room that has somebody you want to talk to. I so appreciate you coming today. And the live notes document stays open for at least a week. So if you want to go in and put any announcements or make changes, you're welcome to do so. And that's it for today. Thank you so much. Have a great day.